episode is sponsored by Teamhood, a modern project management system.
I think we can get started, and first of all, welcome on the Agile Couch for our listeners and viewers. And today we are a bit in a different place than usual. I'm at Telesoftas office here in Kaunas, where I got invited by two guests that wanted to have a chat with me. So we have here Raimundas and Yannick. Raimundas is a lead of product owners at Telesoftas, yes?
Yes.
And Yannick at the same time is Agile lead at Telesoftas.
Indeed.
So guys, nice that you have me here. Thanks for inviting. Could you briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, so since I was mentioned first.
Sure.
Hello, I'm Raimundas. I've been working in Telesoftas for 6 years. I have started here working as a project manager, but after some time we are always trying to work in agile ways, and I think now about like 2 years ago there was a decision made in Telesoftas to truly go an agile way, and all our project managers have been split into Scrum Masters or Product Owners, and
More or less.
more or less, yeah, more or less. But and since that time, well, Yannick here has taken up to look after Scrum Master guys, and I have my team all the rest of the Product Owners, and we're now trying to build the best practices of Agile in that mindset and help our clients in an actual Scrum and Agile way to do our projects.
So there was a bit of a transition from projects into
More
products.
than a bit.
More than
Yeah.
That transition, actually, the transition happened quite naturally, and it was even a bit surprising because most of like project managers were sort of instantly like, yeah, I like process more, I like to work with the team more, and some other guys, so yeah, I don't really like all that process stuff, but I really enjoy getting deeper into the product, understanding what the client actually wants from the product side. So that split was mostly quite natural. We have a couple of people who want to be like more universal, more like a classical PM, but I think we just have like one or two of those people at the moment. So, but most of the guys, yeah, just it was
Transition
actually
to
pretty natural. So it may be just one more confirmation that there is quite a good point in the Agile structure and like in the Scrum guide to have Scrum Master separate and Product Owner separate, because those things are naturally differentiate very, very nicely. So we sort of had that sort of affirmation experiment here in Telesoftas.
Cool. And you're leading the Product Owners team.
Yes.
And Yannick?
So I am leading the Scrum Masters. Same as Raimundas. So like I've been in Telesoftas now 7 years. I started as a developer originally, and then got a chance to become a Scrum Master because I like processes and all that kind of stuff. I'm a process person. I got a chance to become a Scrum Master. Still, I'm a Scrum Master of that team today. But along the way in that process that Raimundas described, like we did that split, and then he is taking care of product owners, and I take care of the Scrum Masters.
Okay.
But you're not calling yourself a Scrum Master lead, you're
No,
calling
I'm
an
not.
Agile coach.
Yes. Yes, the eternal thing of like Scrum Masters do only Scrum. Like no, we were Scrum Master team first, but we didn't particularly like it, so we dubbed it as Agile Community for a number of reasons. One, it's not really like a project as they come in. I mean, we're a project company, a service company. We don't have our own product, so we don't really know what's coming in. So do we just need Kanban, like some simple things? Do we just need someone to keep an eye on things and just like keep like some iterations going? Do we do the full Scrum thing? We kind of have to decide based on the client needs and what needs to happen. And then if you then mention like, hey, we have a Scrum Master team, and the clients are like, oh, so we can get a Scrum Master with full Scrum. And I'm like, hold up. So it's easier to call it a community because that broadens it, and it also actually allows other people who have an interest in agility, and actually product owners are a part of that, so they're also in that group. Like we have some developers who are like just in our, so we have a common public channel where everyone can like on Slack just join in, see what we're doing, reading it, and
Wider community of different roles, positions that are interested in
yeah, exactly. So maybe someone, they're a QA right now or a developer, but like, yeah, they like this Agile stuff, they want to see what we're doing, and then we're like, well, we are quite transparent in what happens. Here's the channel if you want to see what we're doing. Maybe at some point you want to join our workshops. We actually had some cases where someone is like, hey, I have this idea of how I used to do retros in my previous company as a developer.
Okay.
And then he joined, did a presentation, like we gave some feedback. They were very happy. We were very happy that we were being approached by someone, and we're quite open in that sense.
That's fantastic. So we build up a new community of Agile practitioners within your company, and that's successfully growing, helping to build up the skills.
We are doing our best, yeah. Sometimes it's a bit more of a struggle, sometimes it's more natural, but overall I'm very happy how that's going.
Okay. Yannick, you did mention that you have projects or services, and today we met, guys, as discussed previously, to talk a bit about agility in a service company, in a service organization. And just for people to understand, and for myself actually, so what is a service for you, or what kind of services do you treat within your organization? Because you're having agility and you're providing services as a company.
Well, it's
yeah, the fun part.
if you look from the product perspective, from a client perspective, there is, like in the market, usually what exists is product companies, and it's, well, classically you can think of any app or anything like a Trafi, or like these are product companies, and the main thing, they have a product inside, and this is their business model based around it. And for us, a service company, the business model itself is very different, because we don't have our product, and what we sell is the services, or it's like more like consulting and services. So if you look from a business perspective, we are much closer probably to any other service company, for example, like lawyers or things like that. So the service model itself is very different, and that dictates certain differences inside. So since we don't have our own product, then the client comes with theirs, we have to form a team, sell it, and for us, from company perspective, from business perspective, what we sell is basically our developers' hours, or our product owner hours, or just hours of people. So for us, it makes sense to enlarge those teams, sell more hours, but at the same time, we want to create a good value for a client. So from product perspective, especially in my team, there's an interesting conundrum, because if a product owner joins a client project, they have to have that, like, keep in mind how we work here, but at the same time, in the client space, they have to be very aware how a product team operates. So even the very simple example, for a service company, the main parameters are like KPIs. For a product company, usually in our days is now OKRs. So these are even the measurements themselves are different, because OKRs for service company, we tried a little bit, but they don't really work.
Not always.
Not always. You can try, but it's more become a bit artificial. So it's
they only work, I would say, in we only have a few cases where one of our product owners has been able to create a relationship with the client that they're actually really far into the business. And then it's not really, it kind of shifts from traditional, you just, we give you a service. It's more like, well, we're this far involved in over time in your business that they trust us to help them make business decisions, and then the OKR things come back into play because we can have an easier value discussion. But those, I would say, well, we like those because it's much more agility-wise also much easier to work in that setup. I do think right now they're more the exception than the rule.
Yeah, and also it still becomes like a in that particular client and product space. It's not like in our company. So it's just these differences. They mainly stem from the business case, how the business itself operates. So that introduces those differences.
So from the perspective that you explained about the idea behind the service company, now I'm interested into two aspects. So one aspect is once there is a new project that you need to build, so there's a new client. And you mentioned, Raimundas, that we need to build up a new team. So it means
Usually,
that,
yes.
yeah, so from the perspective, we all probably hear that long-lived teams is something really great and we should maintain it, we should focus
God,
on
yes.
it with all the values, all the
Yeah.
team missions and visions, but indeed something is different here. So how you manage within, you don't have long-lived
We
teams.
do.
It's, how that works.
I think you highlighted it correctly, where it's like, what happens if there is no team available and you need to make a new one? And then it's not just the team. Well, it becomes a resource. Like you give a service, and I guess to some extent our developers are a resource to give that service. And then we put agility on top, and then very quickly clients come like, yeah, so someone needs to manage it, so we'll just add a PM on top. And then the two of us are like, hey, we need to, and then okay, PM does everything, it's standard, but we, like Raimundas mentioned, we made the decision of like not wanting to do that. So then we have to go back to sales, and the client will okay, like PM, sure, but what if we like do 50-50 and someone helps on PO side with the business, and we have someone who deals with, we try not to mention Scrum, who deals with like the agile management of the team.
Yeah.
The agile management, generally speaking, I think is sort of okay. I think
Yes.
we have to set some boundaries on like, hey, this is what this person actually does. And there is a very large emphasis on actually defending what this person does, because very easily it's like, wait, the Scrum thing, I heard about it. So this person basically does these meetings and that's it. So it's 10 hours a week. And it's like, no. For us, this person is also responsible for like team delivery, team happiness, like that it becomes actually like a proper functioning team, not like 5 Lego blocks in 5 different categories. And then we ask the question, but then that's the team side, and then the PO side, and then things usually get much more complicated.
Well,
and then we've had several discussions where it's like, why are they resisting this?
like Yannick mentioned, not mentioning terms, so it's actually very similar from product owner side. Like, if possible, with clients first, you just not mention like product owner or any, like, it's very simple. Okay, here's a product. Who is taking care of the product part? And then you go into the depths, like, okay, so who is raising the requirements? Who is thinking about what actual business value this product will deliver?
Who holds your roadmap?
Who's creating a roadmap? Is it just stakeholders coming up with various wishes and now they expect us just or marketing, like any of the stakeholders, do they just have a bunch of ideas and wishes that they expect us to implement? And we know how that usually ends. It's not productive. Well, somebody has to curate that process. Somebody has to go and ask those like proper questions. So why do you think this is needed? Like, do you have anything from your users? Did you do any research? Do you have anything to base it on? Or okay, and if you don't, can we do it in a proper way? That means we formulate a smaller scope, try to do experiments, try to deliver faster something that you just can test and then validate, is it really needed or not. So a lot of cases you try to go off those terminologies, but the problem for us to add the product owner the mainly is that if clients are okay, they also expect to cover the business part. And for us as a service provider, this is the biggest challenge, because we are, as product owners, we can cover what is needed from the team side quite okay. That means translating requirements into user stories, participating in refinements, gathering those requirements. But as soon as a client wishes to get us deeper into the business side, and sometimes that is needed from the day one, that is difficult because we don't have that knowledge from the beginning. So what we try to do is build that relationship, and we can, as like Yannick mentioned, we have examples where we have a relationship for 4 years, so that so that the product owner actually can make those decisions, and they have already the broader knowledge of the market that the product is in, and they can help client already on those and that part too. So we're not shying away from that, but it's a bit more difficult entry point. So,
but why do you think it's difficult to sell then the service that you're doing to the clients? You mentioned that it's better not to mention any terms like Scrum Master, so that guy is going to spend.
The answer is actually relatively simple. Like, we're a service company, right? So client says, hey, we would like to do this. In their mind, they've usually already made up their mind, and it needs to look like this. Like, there's no value discussion or like what problem we actually want to solve. They say like, this is what we want you to do. This is how you need to do it. How long will it take you and how much will it cost? And then the hair in the back of my neck gets up where it's like, estimations really. Because as soon as you give a number to a client, they're like okay, we can probably do it in like roughly
Cost optimization.
Yes, but then also this is also why we shy away from waterfall and like purely time and material, because they're like, well, okay, theoretically speaking, if you know exactly what needs to be done, of course you can do it in 3 months, whatever, this many people, and this is what it costs, and it's fine. In practice, it always fails.
It's a bit
Because
different.
client always changes their mind. It's like, I know we didn't talk about it, but let's add this thing. And like the manager is like, okay, let's say it's traditional management. It's like, okay, but we didn't talk about it, so deadline moves. Like, no, do it in the same time. Okay, sure, but then we need more resources. Like, I don't have enough money. It's like, you never win.
And our customer is always right, so you need to deal that.
So
in
here's
advance,
the thing,
yeah?
Customer thinks they're always right. This is one of our favorite topics, I think. I already see him reacting. So it is a lot of cases, and then this is actually also the challenge, because we are a service company, so they come to us to have a service. If we then bounce back with like, we can give you more value if you allow us to do these extra things with you, it's very easy for them to push back, like, we didn't ask for that. We just want this service and that's it. And that's where a lot of the struggle comes from. It's like, how do we, even early in the sales process, like get a foot in the door and say, okay, what you came to Telesoftas, and generally speaking, our value packet that we can give you is much larger as what you're just asking for us. And that first step already needs to succeed before anything else even can take place. And that's the very difficult part. Like, it's the entry point. If the entry point goes relatively smooth, like we can rough off the edges a little bit, or at least we can also like, okay, let's do like an MVP for like 3 months, and then okay, let's say they don't want our product owner, and I'm okay, well, we can evaluate, and after 3 months we can based on our evaluation, we feel like responsibility-wise, like your product owner, he's not really available. Our team has loads of questions, and we feel like we delivered a less qualitative product than we could have if this person was more available. But then you've already delivered MVP, and you can have a discussion where it's like, well, we can do it better, and have you liked working with us so far? So let's do an optimization and add another person from our end who can assist your PO in making that part clearer, and we go, and then the sky's the limit.
So
but that first part, exactly. It's like you need to have that space to create trust, but clients need to also be willing to give you the space to create that, and that is sometimes very difficult.
So what are your hidden secrets for getting that trust? Because I believe within your specifically position, trust within the clients is the most important thing. To use agility, to be able to deliver in increments, MVPing, to be able to get someone inside from our, your company POs into their domains. How you get that? What are the things that you are doing to get that trust?
Lots of patience. I think first off from my end, with some clients it just doesn't work. We've had cases where we tried really hard and the client is like, no, we know exactly what we're doing. Like, everyone's heard it. We've been doing the same thing for 15 years. Why should this be any different? And then those usually like, okay, we'll maybe give it a go, and then it'll fall flat on its face after like 3 months. I think that where we were able to successful is to, in the early process before we actually start development, is like, okay, like, you want this, we get it. But can we do a workshop with you guys for like just an hour? And we'll just ask certain questions, and this is where Raimundas goes, where it's like, we don't talk about like the keywords, like not the buzzwords. No Scrum Master, Agile process, nothing. It's more like very, like I did one actually quite a while ago, and I was like, okay, I'll talk to the client, and like, okay, so you guys have this product, like what is it about, and like what would you like to do? And then very simple question. So how do you feel about talking to devs like that are working for you? And he's like, well, I don't really feel comfortable. Okay, -1. I make it sound
that's
very
a
simple.
point system, yeah?
Well, not really a point system, but like the way that we built it up, it's like if we like,
Simple
and I should say
questions.
this is our how we built it up, because this is how we feel it worked. It's like, it's not about asking like a complicated system. It's actually very simple day-to-day things, as in, okay, you want to be a product owner and you feel you have the business knowledge, and let's be honest, they have the business knowledge. There's no way that we can cultivate all of it. But then it's simple things. Okay, are you able and willing to make a roadmap, or do you just have ideas? Maybe you're just the idea guy. Okay, roadmap, you guys can take care of it. Okay, +1 for us. Like, so what about like backlog management? Like day-to-day thing a team will need. I have backlog as well. We have someone who can do it. I don't really like doing it. Okay, well, we need someone to do that. And then sort of build a mind map in myself where it's like, well, based on what we understand the product owner needs to do in order to work successfully with our teams, the list of things, and we go internally, and it's like, look, this whole thing combined, it feels like yes, he's a product owner, but he understands product ownership differently than we do. And we do need these responsibilities covered. We don't really care if they do it or we do it.
But that's what we need. That's what
Yes.
our team needs. That's
Exactly.
what we need to be successful.
So it's not about like, yeah, I own the product, I'm the product owner. It's like, there's partly truth in that. But maybe you own the product and you're actually a stakeholder who has the ideas
Yes.
and will give like the grand ideas forward. And then we can get to talking like, okay, like who is helping you build that idea into like a roadmap thing? And I was like, Jira, I don't really like those things. I just like to talk. Okay, fine. Maybe you want to talk to our product owner, sit together, and then this person actually creates the roadmap, the tasks, talk to then our Scrum Master on our end, and then the process gets going.
Ensures the culture is and the surroundings are the ones that the team needs, probably not only the administrational part. I'm really curious, Raimundas, about the part because you are as an organization, it was discussed many times that product owners are inside Telesoftas as well as someone is outside. But if there's someone inside in Telesoftas that is taking care of and being the main one, the main concept of product owner, at least of how I do understand it, is that that person really needs to have a little bit of understanding, at least, of that domain. I mean, that guy is responsible for making sure the product is successful, being creative and so on. So how you guys operate, I mean, you've never been in that business domain.
This is the thing that we are now doing with the team. It's not fully finished exercise, but we have it, and the main idea behind it is here in Telesoftas we have sort of split the product owner into two roles, and we have a technical product owner and a business product owner. And we have these sort of skill sets that are needed. So a technical product owner is what we do, and this is like a basis in Telesoftas, what needs to be covered. And this is the part which is like closest to what Scrum Guide probably also describes as a product owner. And these are the things like, requirement gathering, translating that into user stories, refinement, working with the team, being available for the team, making those simple decisions so that you can save stakeholders' time. So all of that does not require that much business understanding, because all of that is basically, you have to understand the general process, how any software product is built. And this is the part where people on the client side, even though they're product companies, they might be not necessarily like fully IT product companies, and they might lack that understanding. What does it mean to create that IT product? So we are very happy to have like business product ownership on the client side. And this is the thing, like especially in the beginning, as I said, like if we go to a new customer, maybe they're in even, let's say, like in e-commerce. But e-commerce is such a vast thing. Like if you start going into the depths of they're actually doing, of course we will not have that understanding from day one. But this is where very good what Yannick told, and this is how it begins. And those questions, very simple questions like, do you have anyone available for the development team, like full time? Because they will have questions.
Full time is very important. Like not like 2 hours a week. Like,
exactly.
No, like at least several hours.
Exactly. And if they don't have
like,
it,
I hate those like percentage numbers.
Yeah,
10% is all like
that.
Like it's like, oh, in 2 weeks, like 10%. Wow, that means Friday before I'm there. So like, when is this Friday gonna happen? I guarantee you, it's on like the last day of the sprint.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm here, guys. What do you need? And the guys are like, yeah, I needed you like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, so that never works.
Yeah. But this is where we can help our clients. We can help with that communication and that dedication of time, and we know how software product is built, and we can also help from day one with those simple things like, okay, so the requirement is not clear, so our product owner can go and talk to them in depth, like, so why are you doing this feature? What is actually needed? We had I can tell one story, like we had a startup and we had here a team and only a Scrum Master, and she was also a junior at the time, and she's like, okay, I'm not sure what we're doing, so we are reviewing, but it was already towards the end of the product. It was a bit horrible, but one of the things like, okay, so they have a user login screen and they have 18 designs in there, so this is a startup. So the app developer spends 1 month to create a login screen for a startup. That does not make sense at all. They don't have users, but they have like a perfect startup. So what's the value?
But sadly,
Some
this
businesses
goes to that when you ask, like, so client knows best. Like, this is a prime example. Like, he thinks he knows best because
Exactly.
like, he has all these ideas, but there needs to be some. I mean, and having ideas is good. Don't get me wrong. Like, they need to come from somewhere. Like for me, I'm not really an idea guy. Don't give me a product in my hands because I'm like probably like, I don't know, ad account management or something. I don't know. So you need someone who has these ideas, but they need to be somewhat translatable. So at the end of the day, and this actually goes to this another factor of like how do you build that trust? It's like there needs to be like some limited scope that you can say like, look, I'm building this. Here it is. Give it a go. Not like, hey, come back in 6 months because then, well, it's back to waterfall. We just put some ceremonies in place and it's like.
So how often you get back to the customer with? I mean, as you mentioned, not
as much
after
as
6
possible.
months.
I know
That's a good answer.
I know that's pretty vague, but
what is the practical experience from your perspective?
It kind of
Do you like get back every sprint, for example? Like, yeah, we all know that within the end of the sprint we should have some
at the least, yes.
increment that it's releasable, demoable. Is that?
At least on the sprint. I mean, we do try to uphold like proper like CI/CD rules and things like that of like try and deploy on like a daily basis or like not like a once every 2 weeks kind of thing. But I can't say that's a success across the board. It also depends, like where we talked also, like does client actually like involve themselves enough in the process? Like how many times do you have to like push back on like priority changes and how, to some extent also like the code base level and how mature is your team in dealing with all that kind of thing. But the goal is to just take that delivering thing out of like the sprint cycles and just like if you finish something, deploy, go. Finish something, deploy, go. That's the end goal for that kind of stuff.
So as soon as possible overall. That's a good one.
Yeah.
You know, the other perspective I was thinking once you guys mentioned how it might be difficult with different clients, but it might be easy as well. It depends on
some clients are super easy with that. We've had clients where they're like, look, we just want you guys to do something. We don't care how.
Just do it.
We just want this. And then you guys figure out how to do it. And then we're like, okay, workshop, this is the value of the thing. Designers also get involved, like creating designs, UI, UX, the whole thing. And the team goes to work. And after 2 weeks, we're like, hey, we made like 2 screens. What do you think? Cool, keep going, keep going.
Just full trust. But I wonder regarding one perspective specifically. I mean, okay, if client trusts you, all good, you can do all the things that you need. But still, I assume that all the things that the teams do, all the things that you're helping teams to develop and build, it's about increasing some business value in whatever your clients do.
Yeah.
So how do you check that? How do your teams check that? I mean, if we have a, let's say, a phone, building a phone, we need to test out how people are buying. And if one is just, building the phone, do you get these metrics?
But the thing is, we are not separated. Like the client, it's not like client comes and says, okay, you do your thing, we'll come back in half a year. It doesn't matter. That's not how it works. It's again like that constant relationship. So the testing part, you talk with a client and you make an agreement. So we make like in test environment, we create an app for you, and we try to involve client side at least on that level. Like you have to test it, you have to check it, because this is going to be your customers who will use it. So there is that part where you need to still involve clients, and it's like in the business testing side to make sure that yes, we understood correctly. This is what that we are building exactly what you want. So that part exists, and it's just part of communication. So we cannot take over that part fully.
You make it sound quite easy. I should add, like in
it's
practice,
not easy.
it's not.
It's
like
not easy.
The theory of like what ideal in a situation would work fine, yes, but also partly because we are a service company, there is like automatically it's like, hey, we're expecting you to deliver something, and then we like, yeah, but we also expect you to deliver something back. And
that's a point.
I think that's the point where you're going, and like, there's no way to force that. We've had cases where like we deliver something, and then like, hey, please. Actually, I had one case myself, I think about a year ago, or like longer than that, 2 years ago, where the client was like, hey, really needed a feature. Okay, team worked on Saturday, we finished it, really deployed it, gave a demo build, and then 2 days later I checked, nobody had bothered downloading the build. So I went to my product owner and I was like, have you seen this? And she's like, yes, I've seen it, I'm pissed. But you can't force that.
Yeah.
Like we have cases where you try really hard, and at the end of the day the client is like, yeah, we'll just check it in our own time. But then that automatically...
Everyone is busy,
Yeah, but that then Raimundas is also right. It creates an environment where then the team starts where it's like, well, who are we actually doing stuff for? Because obviously you don't care. and then things start going downhill, because as soon as that tone gets set, it's very hard to get that back on track.
But well, in this case, you have to find the ways and create that environment to also hold the client accountable to some extent,
Yeah.
because it's
I mean,
like
for myself, like as a Scrum
Yeah.
Master, then I'll be like, okay, you don't want to participate, demos are mandatory.
Yeah.
I've done that.
Strict.
yeah,
I mean, I know, like, it sounds really strict, but if your team has no connection to client and they give the air at least, maybe they care, but at least in their actions, they don't show that they're invested.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, the team is going to ask questions, hey, well, we're just doing stuff for ourselves. Sure, someone's using it somewhere. But
Yeah, we need to know how is it used, what's the
yeah,
feedback, and
so
etc.
we're on our end also not afraid to sometimes, not with the team itself, like, well, we try, sometimes it happens, or we try to avoid it. Like, it's not the dev team, but it's like then like me, Scrum Master, like the other PO will like sit down with the stakeholder and be like, look, we're doing this work for you at this point. Like, you want us to be invested, but you're not invested in what we do. This doesn't work. Like, you need to show, even if it's just visibly, like, I don't, like, you might not care, like, that's up to you, but I need you to show towards the team that you are invested in the work that they do. Because as soon as that falls away, that partnership flies out the window. The easiest way is to say, like, look, I'm sorry, but the team, when we do, we can reorganize it so it fits your schedule, because a demo review session is honestly not that long if you just
Mhm.
do it properly. But I expect you and the stakeholders to be there for these reasons. It's a motivation and trust question.
Yeah, so for
And 9
your
times out of
side,
10,
Yannick, it's from your side, is to exactly like this is where like Scrum Master perspective to get team motivation and like from my side, from product owner perspective, it is actually important that somebody uses that thing.
Yeah.
And actually, because this is the way to grow the product. Because if nobody is using it,
and why are you doing it?
then it's not just why we're doing it, but there's okay, so how we're gonna continue, because well, part of the actual proper product ownership is to gather that data, to understand like who's using it, how they're using it, get that feedback. Because if that is not incoming, then we're just again like we're creating something for someone. And
I don't entirely want to
not
decouple those
proper.
things, because
Yeah.
I mean, sure. I mean, you have different teams where it's like, I just come in at 8, I work till 5, and that's done. But for like a proper, like agile, successful team, if they feel like the client is not using it, usually you can just forget doing anything.
Yeah, they are related.
Like,
course.
like I don't want to do
So,
entirely.
so guys, how is the purpose for the team? How is the, you know, I'm sure Yannick is aware that that all team needs some mission of firstly to exist, and there is a vision that
Well,
creates
there's a
by the
reason you come
product.
to work. Right?
Yeah. So, but okay, for the mission, okay, I do understand it's something that should be possible to have, but I wonder more for the vision, from the product perspective. Is it like something that you take with the contracts, or is it that you allow the teams to go wild and
This is not contract based, and I think that's a good thing, because you shouldn't put everything in contract. I think we talked about like the responsibilities. We can make a case for that. And like I think in some cases it was very clear that client is not really willing to do it, but they gave like, but I mean, then we also, because we're also a service company, then it means like in contract there has like the rates of the people, how many hours a week they'll work on your project, and then like money gets involved, and money gets involved, it always gets ugly. So he's like, you know what, this extra person, I don't. Fair. Like product owner specifically is like, you know what, this product owner adds this many hours a week, that's cost me this much more, I don't really need it, just I'll do it myself. And then we're like, I'm sorry, but I don't think that's actually gonna happen. I think in those cases you can make a case of like, maybe contractually you can set up some responsibilities for client and hold them accountable. Yeah. Other than that, all of that is not a contract space. I think also goes a bit to the trust discussion, where your team going wild on day one, I'm sorry, it's not happening. Like, at the end of the day, yeah, agility and empowerment and self-organization, experimentation, fine, but we are still making something for someone else.
Yes.
You're still building software for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just be like, yeah, I will do it. It'll take me 3 months because I want to have AWS. Maybe we'll test out Azure, and we need to have a full dashboard. And I'm like, all I need is a login page. Like, relax. Like, just build the login page, simple login. Don't worry about JWT or refresh tokens. Just build it, give the client a look, test it, and then we'll go further. So,
yes.
And then over time, ideally, sometimes it's more difficult. As you show stuff, client will get an understanding what you're doing. They will get an understanding what client is doing. Hence my very strict thing of like, let the client actually involve themselves in demos, or show the roadmap to the entire group, or Even had a discussion, I think, with my current client at some point, long time ago, where it's like, if you are there in those meetings, well, obviously they ask, why should I be there? It's like, well, they're doing this for you. They want to see who they're working for. And if you then have positive feedback, that works wonders.
So client involvement is actually very important, as what you mentioned.
Of course.
In your case, it's not even a client only, it's as well a requester as well as a product owner if per Scrum, And
I have the benefit that my product owner is also in the company, which makes things infinitely more easy because they see a friendly face that they know works in the same company. They see each other at company parties, whatever. Yes. If you have an external PO, it gets automatically more difficult because that person is more removed.
Distant from the team,
Exactly. But that doesn't make it impossible. So in your case, yes, then product owner being there, and also one of the reasons why we heavily suggest you need to be able to, like, at least on a daily basis, be able to answer some stuff with the team. I don't know, join a team building, or like just join the meetings. Don't be like, I'm the guy who shows up once a sprint kind of thing.
So what do you do to build up with the clients? For example, I know that there are some practices from some there are specific frameworks actually for the service companies that they can use, how they are building up even relationship. So it all starts with an official meeting, then having some, let's say, dinners at the bar or restaurant, whatever.
Yep.
Is it something that you're
unofficial
practicing?
meetings are super powerful, not
That
just for clients, also for teams. Like, do a retro in a bar. It's like, there's retro today. It's like, well, I know, but the bar is across the street. I've done it before. Just like it's literally the license here. Like, it takes 2 minutes to walk there. It's like, oh, we have retro. They're like, yeah, you guys are all in the office. Like, we'll just go grab a beer. We'll ask some questions, and we'll talk, and we have like some fun exercises. Like, 2 truths and a lie kind of thing. That clients is the same thing. Like, don't disconnect them. Where it's like, hey, we have a team building, I don't know, in a month. Maybe you'd like to join us. Client joins in, or at least like some, like maybe not the entire client group, but maybe someone in the client joins in.
One stakeholder too,
Yeah, maybe they stay for like a couple of days.
Yeah, those people who are working close to developers, if it's a longer term relationship, of course, it's not uncommon for them to come visit our office, or they call our guys to visit on their site in UK or somewhere like in Germany. Yeah. So it depends on the client, but it's not like a very regular thing. It's not like a monthly thing, but it happens from time. But those are, there's a crucial from a relationship point of view, from the team to understand, so who are they working with. And I think like your last trip to Germany, like it was very productive, for our product owners, because they were on premise to see what is the client working on specifically. There were a lot of good insights just from the practical side, like to understand, so what is this client's business, how they operate, what they do, what is that context. So
one PO in particular, like he came there and he was like firing questions like this, and how does this work? Because they literally took us to where like it's like a B2B eShop environment, and like it needs to basically replace all their paperwork. And then they took us to the warehouse where this would be implemented, like showing like the store, the shop. The employee talked us through like her working day, and he's like firing questions, this and that, and like building a system in his head. You can see him going, and it's like, and then at the end of the day, you just go and you have dinner, and we talk about family, and then what happens is, and this is why I think this is so important, like it changes. If a dev is in a meeting and a client joins, it's automatically this. Client sit here, dev sit here. What this does is this. Yeah. Like, oh, this guy is also just a normal guy with like a daughter and takes her to school and whatever kind of thing. And it reduces that distance.
Remove the distance.
Like you don't feel like you're talking to someone who, I guess, I don't have a nice way of putting it, but
requester, client.
Let's use that because that's the best word I can come up with right now. But you don't feel like you're like, he's not your boss. Like he's not the one who's like holding the leash or whatever. Like no, he's like just like a normal guy who asks you something to do, and you as a group just try and provide what he wants in the best way that you can. Yeah. And that mellows out that situation. Actually, I wasn't there myself, but there was this I think about a week ago, our client came to visit, and then one of my developers who hadn't seen him yet, like walks into the meeting. He sits in the corner. She turns around and is like, "I know you," he jokes around, like super mellow, like casual guy. Like there's no like, you're not supposed to talk to me like that. Like it's nothing like that. And then, but then the barrier for wanting to do something for that person like goes so much lower. Something like, hey, I'm sorry, like this came up from the client, he asked us to do it, do you guys mind? They're like, yeah, no problem. do that with a guy they've never seen before. That's like, no, our plan says we should do like this. It's like those things become much more easy to do.
Okay, guys, I see that time is running really fast. It is a nice conversation we're having. I wonder, for the sake of the last things to mention, so from the challenges perspective, if Raimundas could mention 3 top challenges that he sees from the product ownership perspective.
Yes, Raimundas.
And then I would like to hear the same from Yannick.
Yeah,
I wonder how they are, aligned.
I'm not on the spot. It's very difficult for me to think things on the spot, but
I'm sure
let's
you can come up
try.
with something.
Let's try. So I think it's not going to be nothing new from aside what we talked. So first of one, it is a big challenge, of course, getting to that business value, like how to bridge that gap to understanding the client's side, what they actually want, and how to help him best in that part. The second, I think, is building a relationship, because it's a long process, and that's one of the things for us as a service company. We do go through a lot of clients and we see a lot of things, and we're starting to see that a lot of clients actually need help on their side, on their organization, and that's a big problem for us, because if they have a product and it's integrated into their organization, but their organization themselves are having challenges, that directly affects how the product is built. So for us, it's quite difficult. And I think related to that is next challenge is how to get to that educational part. So, and I would even add, so what are the boundaries of our roles? I think both of our roles and the guys that work with our clients, like on the educational level. So how much should they go into, and how to approach it on the client side, and how to, reach those topics, like maybe not all the things that you are doing are okay. So, like I worked previously in customer support for 7 years, and I had this sort of saying that client is not always correct, but they're always a client. So there is that part that it's not always easy to bridge those topics. This is challenging, but that's also the interesting part, because I would say that quite naturally flows into what we do. So it's
that's
just
why
like
you exist.
an extension of, like, you cannot just say you cannot just say, oh, this is my product, I will write a user story, devs will implement, that's it, done.
You sure?
It automatically goes, why is that user story where, okay, so the requirement was not formulated correctly this time, but it's already not the first time. Okay, so how can we remedy it? Why does the customer change the requirement so much? So maybe there's something deeper there, but that automatically means that we have to go deeper into their organization and start asking those questions.
And then collaboration, trust once again.
Exactly. So
a lot of it evolves. If we like let's say we watch our talk and then you listen to like other stuff we talk about, at a base level, the base issue is always, why would you trust us?
So you would say that trust is the main and primarily challenge that.
It's if I paraphrase it, like creating a trusting environment, like not from one end but on both sides.
Yeah.
Where the team trusts the client to make, either to make educated decisions, or that the client will at least heed the advice or listen to the suggestions of the team itself. Like, because that takes time, and it actually takes a lot of time in some cases. And creating that is often the biggest challenge, for sure. Well, there are some smaller ones.
Three things, Yannick, 3 things.
Let me start with one.
Would you add something else on top of what Raimundas mentioned? Maybe.
Yeah, there's a couple of
I
I think working with external POs for us is quite often quite difficult. Mostly because, if there's an external PO and it has that title, usually also means that the client has their version of agility or what they over the years built. The sentence, we've been doing Agile for 15 years, we know how this works, and then my guys are like, where to start? Happens more often than I'd like to admit, but to try and align that and create like an actual somewhat agile environment where then again you are able to create that trust eventually, instead of just like clients like, no, like value, I just need you to do this, and this. And we're like, yeah, but our sprint goal is then everything that's in the sprint, so what's the point? Why are we even doing this? And usually that ends up in discussions where it's like, can we just do a Kanban board please, because this doesn't work well, then me sometimes included, and others are like, yes, but Scrum could actually be so valuable with these iterations, and you're just not making use of it.
So
and it just,
educational part once again is whatever Raimundas just
education,
mentioned.
coaching, motivating is not motivating, not so much, because like I don't think you can motivate people. But what's the third one? Mentoring. That's the one.
Mentoring.
Is actually very important, but towards external people can be very big challenge because there needs to be already a reason why they would accept what you have to say, and then to willingness to actively work, because they usually also have people breathing down their neck on the other side that we don't see.
Yeah.
Like there's this black cloud behind them, and sometimes that black cloud opens because they're like, okay, you have a point, the door is open and you see it, but very often it's like you see that person and it stops. And then they said like, yeah, but I also have my stakeholders yelling down my neck. And it's like, yeah, that's fair, but then...
We see the wall just and nothing.
Yeah, we see that one person, he's the gatekeeper, and everything else behind it is like, well, we don't know. Kind of goes to the same challenge he has with like an actual product owner going in. It's exactly the same, just from a slightly different point of view. And then the third one is, and this is gonna sound bad, but...
Let's go ahead.
I want to say making developers care, but that's not the right way of putting it. But there is the different type of developers in the sense that some guys just like to come in, have their tasks written out and do it, and that's it. And some guys have like, I don't need everything written out. I like to find things out.
So how to make how to allow people to go that extra mile, how to motivate people go that extra mile, not just feature factory.
But how you create an environment where they see value in actually doing that as well. And because of that, get motivated to get involved.
Cool. Thank you guys for a really nice chat. It was a pleasure for me to be here. Thanks for inviting.
Thanks for the chat.
Thank you for joining.
I'm sure that if listeners would like to hear more about the challenges Telesoftas is having here and helping to resolve them as well with maybe new ideas or just chat around what's happening, you can get in touch with Raimundas and Yannick.
Gladly.
They're definitely very nice people. As you can see, I'm sitting here
and we like chit-chatting. So.
Yeah.
No,
you can jump into the Kaunas office, Telesoftas building. I think Telesoftas has an office in Vilnius as well.
Yes, and in Klaipėda.
And in Klaipėda. Yeah. Wow, amongst all the biggest cities.
Yeah, if you want to travel, you can go to Nigeria and find people there for their really adventurous
If anyone knows, then that's an opportunity.
Yes. But yeah, more than welcome to come and have a chat with us.
Thank you guys, it was a pleasure. I wish you a great day ahead and see you everyone.
See you guys.
Cheers.
Ciao.